Good morning, everybody. Lee Brower here. Welcome to this week's edition of Meaningful Monday. Am I glad to be here? I sure am. Am I grateful to be here? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. You know, I'm going to share a quote with you. This is from Gruenter and Whitaker. And it talks about the culture of any organization is shaped by the worst behavior the leader is willing to tolerate. Or so we say the leaders are willing to tolerate. Let's look at that carefully. First of all, the culture. What do we mean by the culture? Now, I love what Clayton Christensen talks about culture. He talks about culture not as, dress down Fridays or the parties that you have, or what he talks about culture, he's talking about the decisions that we make, the decisions that you make. Now, when you talk about decisions that you make, if you've got good culture, then you make good decisions, you identify them. You may even name them, put a story with them, and brand them, and you share them so that in the future you're making good decisions again. But if you're making bad decisions, you don't usually capture them. You fight against them, you don't learn from them, and you make them over and over again, and that becomes your culture. So, all right, so we understand culture of any organization. Now, what do we mean by any organization? So, the culture of any organization. When you hear the word organization, what do you think of? Do you think of a big company? Can it be a small entrepreneurial firm, a mom and pop organization? Can it be your community, a nonprofit, a community event, the community itself? Can it be our government? Can it be our government? Can it be your family? Can it be your family? The culture of any organization. So I said that if I were to say the culture of your family, or the culture of this country, or the culture of, if you have a company named ABC Company, then the culture of that company is based upon the decisions that we make, and then making good decisions over and over again determines good culture. So, all right, the culture of any organization is shaped by the worst behavior. And I don't think I need to define worst behavior that the leader or leaders is or are willing to tolerate. So one of the questions that I like to ask when I'm working with my clients, whether I'm there engaged as a coach, mentor, or what I sometimes call a shadow CEO, is how do you define your culture? What does your culture look like? And if their answers are crisp and they know exactly what to say, then that tells me that they're proactive in determining and establishing a culture within their company. If I say to them, what does that culture look like? And they start humming and hawing, and they can't answer, then that also tells me that they're not really clear about that. So maybe their great culture happens just by happening. But if you were really a true leader, you're going to mold and craft that culture around the great decisions that you're making. You're going to find ways to preserve those great decisions and move them forward. If you're not, then if you don't honor that, and if you don't, we have a thing called with a lot of the companies that we work with, let's say the ABC company, we work with them to determine the ABC way. What is the ABC way? And they will look into their history and they will find great examples of good decisions that they've made. And then they will capture the stories around that. They'll get the underlying concept or principle, and they will identify that as being one of the ingredients of the ABC way. But you can do that with your family as well. We've done it for the Brower family. We've done it for Empowered Wealth. We do it for our clients. But when you do that and you tie them to actual stories, that culture that gets built is intentionally built upon the experiences, the stories, and the learning of those underlying concepts. And that's what brings everybody together. Now, if you just do it because it sounds good, you go out and hire this firm that comes in and they're going to write your text for you and come up with a great slogan and a great logo. This is what we do. This is who we're about. But if you're out of integrity with that, and being out of integrity means the leader's attitudes, words, and actions are out of sync and violate the definition of a successful culture. One of Peter Drucker's quotes that I really like says, culture eats strategy for breakfast, which means when you get the culture right, the rest will more often than not fall into place. What is your culture? Take some time to evaluate the culture that you have, whether it's in your family or your business or in other areas where you may serve. Get it right. Find out your ABC way. And you'll be able to pull together a culture of great decision makers that celebrate their success as they go and continue to capture more examples of the ABC way. I look forward to talking to you next week. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.